This is the Hiperfire 24 or Hipertouch. Just depends on which model you have. I'm going to talk about how to remove this and then how to install it. So I'm going to remove it first because it's already installed into the firearm. So I'm going to show you how it comes out first, and then I will show you how to install it. So if you're trying to install it, fast forward this to the installation procedure, but watching how it comes out of the gun helps a lot too, understanding how the system works. I will use two tools. That is a Geisley. That's a Glock punch. This is a Geisley trigger pin, hammer pin punch. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to use is the Glock tool. So this yoke right here needs to come out of this saddle. Okay. I'm going to compress these springs and then rotate it up. When I do this, I put my fingers right here over the top as I'm doing it because I half shot this yoke and the springs all the way across the room because, you know, springs. So I'm going to push that in. I'm going to pull up on it into my fingers and then slowly release it while my fingers are on that. Okay. So this comes off. That's the yoke. The springs come off. Now, this is what the springs hold on to and the yoke drops onto. So the way this works is it won't come off this way, but it's got a flat right here. So I'm going to rotate that back, and then I'm going to pull it out. See the flat right there? That allows me to take it in and out, okay? But once it's rotated, that flat is now gone and it holds in place, okay? So now I'm going to switch to the Geisley punch. I am going to punch this spring out straight. Okay. Now I left this in here. I'm going to put my finger in here and push down on the trigger, hold it in place, pull the pin out, and let this come out. So the trigger, just push the pin through. So this is not under as much spring tension, so I'm holding on to it, but I'm just pulling that out. Now back here, I'm taking the trigger and pushing it forward and then rocking the back of the safety back here, or sorry, the safety stop on the trigger out from underneath the safety barrel. You can't do this with every trigger. If the trigger is cut small enough back here, short enough, you can do that. If it's too long back here, you'll have to take your safety mechanism off to take it out. So now this is out. This is the saddle, okay? And this is basically a normal trigger. It does have a little bit of difference on the sear here, but for the most part, the biggest difference and the thing you have to look out for is that piece right here. This inner tube holds the saddle onto the trigger, okay? You want to make sure that those cutouts right here are on top and that it hasn't rolled over. That will actually allow this pin to fall out and then your trigger has a problem. So if you get this barrel with the cutout on top like that, when you install it first, make sure you check that. See it? You can see a little bit better on that side, okay? So you want to make sure that it's centered in between those. But once you have that there, it's real simple. Installing this is very fast and easy. So the first thing I do is I put a little bit of grease on this. Okay, so that's way too much, but so I'm just putting a little bit of grease on the pin, okay? I drop this in and I want the legs of these springs on the sides, and I want the trigger shoe to go through the hole in the bottom, okay? Now I'm going to press this down, slide it back underneath the safety barrel, the barrel of the safety, the little round part, right? I'm going to take this pin, line it up with the hole, and then slowly push it through, line it up with my fingers, okay? The hammer I'm going to do the hammer the same way. These legs are going to go on the outside and go where that barrel was, that cutout. That's where these legs are going, and it's going to retain this bottom pin in place. Okay. See this a little bit better. So this is going in, and those legs are going on top of that first pin. And then down, like, oops, sorry, I missed on that side. There we go. So it's going down, and those pins are going down the side. Okay, can you see that? Yep, you can. Okay, so when I do this, I'm going to take the pin this way. Once again, I'm going to use some grease on the pin. Okay, I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to press this down. Hold it in place. It has to be on fire. If it's on safe, you're going to stop your trigger from rotating, and it can stop you from putting it together. So make sure it's on fire, okay? Once this is in place, I'm going to line that hole up. I'm going to start the pin, okay? So see how it stopped there, it bound? There's a spring in the center of this that holds this pin in place. So you want to just see how it just slipped? You want to just press on it until it goes. If you have a problem, use the plastic here on the back of the Glock tool, and then press it past that J-spring. Once that J-spring's gone through, now I can use the trigger itself to line this pin up, okay? And then pop it right in place just like that, okay? So this will work without the actual booster springs. So I'm checking, making sure that its function is correct before I put in the rest of the mechanism. So now I'm putting this in. I'm going to put some grease on the back of this spot right here. I'm going to hold this away, drop it into that channel, and then rotate it vertical. The springs go on the rods. The yoke has two sides. It's got one side that looks like that and one side that looks like that. This dimple goes to the outside of the springs. So I'm going to put the springs in these slots and then use that dimple to press it in place. This goes on those springs. I'm bringing it down on top of the saddle, taking the Glock tool, putting it in this, pressing in and down, and now it's locked in place. Now I can check. Don't ever let your hammer go forward and hit, okay? So if you don't have your upper on here, make sure you put your thumb in front of there and catch your hammer. You don't want it to slap. You can break your bolt catch, or I've even seen it crack the aluminum here on some bad ones. Make sure everything's working, and that's it. You're good to go.